Tonight on Y News. The first ever impeachment complaint against President Rodrigo Duterte was filed in the lower house of Congress. The government sets its second exploration in Benham Rise in the second quarter of 2017. The PNP Counterintelligence Task Force, or CITF, sets to expand its operations against rogue cops starting in Luzon.
Labor groups protest against a newly approved department order on contractualization. President Rodrigo Duterte sets to sign the nationwide smoking ban anytime this week. And a second hotel with robot staff welcomes visitors in Japan.
Y News begins now.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center, this is Y News with Angelo Castro III and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Explorers who had a glimpse of Benham Rise are urging the government to take immediate action for its protection. Ray Palayo will tell us why.
Hectare territory, Benham Rise is a seismically active undersea region said to be located east of Luzon. Its shallowest point, called the Benham Bank, is rich in colorful corals and various fish species. In April 2012, the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea recognized and officially approved that Benham Rise is part of the Philippines' continental shelf and territory. It was first explored by the government in May 2016, according to Oceano Philippines, a non-government organization who was part of the first exploration team, which makes it a potential area for spawning or for fish to lay their eggs. The group says this is enough reason for the government to take immediate action for its protection.
Yung form ng corals doon, folio siya lahat, unlike yung shallow reef natin na reefs na puro combination ng folios and branching. So ito, parang puro siya mga repolyo yung itsura niya.
There should be more research and exploration, not just in Benham Bank, but in the entire Benham Rise region.
Director Teresa Mondita Lim says the Benham Rise will also serve as protection for the Philippines in order to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Dahil yun is part of our eastern seaboard, yung vast coral reef doon sa deep sea coral areas, tsaka yung formations dun sa area, actually also help buffer the Philippines from impacts of climate change and other disasters arising from the Pacific Ocean.
The government, through the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources and DNR's Biodiversity Management Bureau, will launch another round of exploration in Benham Rise. The BMB is also creating a management framework for the protection of Benham Rise, under which protected areas will be identified and declared. Meanwhile, the Senate is also pushing for a bill that would create the Benham Rise Development Authority.
Explore the potentials of Benham Rise in terms of energy and biodiversity. Number 2, it will protect Benham Rise. Number 3 also is to assert our sovereignty in that area.
Ray Palayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Malacanang explained that there was no incursion that happened on the reported passage of Chinese ships in Benham Rise last year, according to presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Survey ships were in the area to do research in accordance with the agreement China had with President Rodrigo Duterte. Malacanang also reiterates that there has been no conflict of interest in the statements of President Rodrigo Duterte, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, and the Department of Foreign Affairs on reported passage of Chinese survey ships in Benham Rise last year. Just last week, Lorenzana discussed the said issue and ordered the Philippine Navy to accost and drive away Chinese ships spotted near Benham Rise. On Monday, President Duterte had an agreement with China that Beijing should inform him first about sending ships in the area.
Why didn't the president, assuming that there was an agreement, this is from the palace side, no? Why didn't the president tell the DND and the SFA that there was such?
I think you're framing it differently. Okay, I'm not going to go into that framework. Okay, whatever let me see. Where's that statement? I have a statement. I can give it to you later. I can't seem to find it. But basically, there was no exclusion. There was no conflict. It was just a question of referring to separate matters at the same time.
A first impeachment attempt against President Rodrigo Duterte has been filed today in the lower house. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
In his 17-page complaint filed in the lower house today, Magdalo Party List Representative Gerry enumerated 5 grounds for impeachment against President Rodrigo Duterte. These include betrayal of public trust and violation of the Constitution because he argues that President Duterte is liable for all the 8,000 cases of extrajudicial killings. In addition to this, Alejano mentioned the alleged role of the president as the head of the Davao Death Squad responsible for the 1,400 vigilante killings in Davao City when he was still the mayor. The reported 11,000 ghost employees in Davao City in 2014 and the alleged hidden wealth of the president as revealed by Senator Antonio Trillanes IV. According to Congressman Alejano, President Duterte's alleged secret deal with China is also an impeachable offense.
Sa pagkakaroon niya ng secret arrangement with China na hindi alam po ng taong bayan, hindi po alam ng kahit ng kanyang gabinete, kung ano bang arrangement ang pinasok niya considering the fact that we have a conflict of interest and competing claims sa West Philippine Sea. At ngayon po, narinig ho natin ay ang paghimasok ng China sa Benham Rice.
In defense of the president, House Majority Leader Rudy Fariñas says the allegations are obviously hearsays based on what is read on the newspapers and telltales of Senator Trillanes. Likewise, Fariñas argued, granting that the president committed such allegations, he was then a mayor, therefore they couldn't be used as basis for an impeachment complaint. For his part, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez strongly believes that all charges are fabricated and the impeachment complaint will not prosper. After the Secretary General received the impeachment complaint, it will be referred to the House Speaker then to the House Justice Committee to determine if the complaint is sufficient in form and substance.
In order for the impeachment complaint to proceed, a majority vote of the Justice Committee members is needed to decide on whether there is probable cause for the complaint to push through against the President. Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Malacanang says the impeachment complaint filed before the House of Representatives against President Rodrigo Duterte is part of the destabilization plot against the administration. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
The Malacanang stood firm that President Rodrigo Duterte did not commit treason, betrayal of trust, bribery, graft, and corruption, high crime, and culpable violation of the Constitution for him to be ousted. Presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella says the turn of events, including the impeachment complaint filed today against the president, seems to be coordinated and part of a larger scheme to topple the administration.
Well, it just seems rather dramatic that everything seems to be so coordinated at this stage, with acts of trying to discredit the administration and trying to throw it in doubt.
The criticisms of Vice President Leni Robredo against the anti-drug war of the Duterte administration in the international engagement through the United Nations Commission on Narcotics Drugs cannot be also considered coincidental.
Events like these seem to be too well coordinated as to just be coincidental.
For his part, Magdalo Party List Representative Gerry denies plotting a destabilization against the Duterte administration with his filing of an impeachment complaint.
Dapat maliwanag ho tayo dyan. Pag ikaw ba ay nag-criticize sa mga pulisiya at actuations ng gobyerno, yan ba ay destabilization?
Meanwhile, the Malacanang remains unfazed of these events but appealed to the public to just focus on nation building and do not be affected by the so-called noises of the opposition.
There's so much noise coming from the circles, from the outside circles, and it just shows a sign of, the sign of lack of unity and stuff like that. But it would all help us if we just bear the brunt together. I think we should just grow up.
Presidential spokesperson Abella believes President Duterte will let his allies in the Congress to decide on their own, and he will never manipulate them regarding the issue of the impeachment. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The House of Representatives is being urged to show impartiality and fairness in handling the impeachment complaint filed against President Rodrigo Duterte. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
The Constitution defines Congress as independent branch of the government. It is co-equal to the executive and legislative branches and is expected to perform checks and balances against the two other branches. It is for this reason that some senators, being members of the Congress, urge their twin chamber, the House of Representatives, to show their impartiality in handling the impeachment complaint filed against President Rodrigo Duterte.
I am hoping na ano pa man ang nangyari na sa House of Representatives, both good and not good, tulad dito sa Senado, I am hoping na they will rise to the challenge ng yung tinatanong nyo, fair na paghusga sa merito ng impeachment complaint, at aasahan ko yung kanila ring maayos na aksyon sa prosesong iyan.
Senator Risa Hontiveros also hopes that House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez can still prove his fairness in the process, even if he earlier tagged the impeachment complaint as something stupid. Liberal Party President Senator Francis Pangilinan says whether or not they agree with the complaint against the president, lawmakers should respect the impeachment process as afforded by the Constitution. Senator Panfilo Lacson, on the other hand, says good luck to the Magdalo party list and cites that in order to convict the president, 1/3 votes from the House and 16 votes from the Senate will be needed. Minority Senator Bam Aquino says it is the right of every Filipino to utilize processes under the law to demand accountability of government officials. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, however, maintains that Congress, which will stand as impeachment court, should evaluate carefully the merits of the complaint.
Pulot-dulo naman ebidensya no? Kung paano mo patunayan to sa Kongreso, being the fiscal of impeachment case. What happens here, yung Kongreso titignan yung mga ebidensya, titignan yung complaint, at titignan kung merong basis yung complaint.
While some senators refuse to comment, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito insists that the filing of the complaint is not timely, as the country cannot move forward with ouster moves like these. Magdalo Party List Senator Antonio Trillanes IV, on the other hand, welcomes and supports the filing and says it is the last venue for the president to finally face the allegations against him. Joyce Balancho, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
President Rodrigo Duterte is bound for 2 ASEAN neighbor countries next week. Rosa Licoz will tell us why.
Myanmar and Thailand are the last leg of President Rodrigo Duterte's regional tour of ASEAN countries. The official visit of the chief executive in Myanmar is from March 19 to 20, while from March 20 to 22, he will go straight to Thailand. President Duterte will meet Myanmar President U Tin Kyaw and other high government officials. In Thailand, the Philippine President and Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha will hold a bilateral meeting.
The President and Thai Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha are scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting where they are expected to discuss issues of mutual concern, including political, economic, agriculture, energy, education, and defense cooperation.
Agreements on agriculture, science and technology, energy, education, and economic cooperation will be the possible pacts to be signed between the Philippine and Thailand governments, while there is no expected agreements to be signed in his visit to Myanmar. President Duterte will also meet the Filipino communities in the two countries. DFA says there are 1,800 Filipinos in Myanmar while 16,000 Filipinos are staying in Thailand. Meanwhile, Vice Premier Wang Yang, the highest Chinese official to visit the country to date, will be here from March 16 to 19. He will be attending the ASEAN-China Year of Tourism and Business Forum in Manila. While in Davao City, he will pay a courtesy call to President Duterte and meet the Philippine economic managers.
The Vice Premier's visit will build on the momentum of President Duterte's state visit to China in October last year.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The newly appointed Acting Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Enrique Manalo, emphasizes that effective governance of the country's territory is one of the urgent interests of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Leslie Longbowen is in Quezon City to tell us why, live. Yes, Leslie, go ahead.
Yes, Darlene, Acting Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo has discussed today the priorities of the department under his administration. Manalo has enumerated what he believes are the urgent interests of the country. First among these is the effective governance of the country's maritime domain.
Second, the Philippines is an archipelagic and seafaring nation, and her progress is firmly connected to her waterways and sea areas. This affects our nation's security and defense posture. Effective governance runs the gamut from securing the nation's territory to effectively policing our waterways and to ensuring the health of our marine resources.
Apart from this, he says it is important to secure the nation's critical infrastructures, including transportation, power, banking, and military, from external threats in the digital age. He also says that the welfare of the Filipinos inside and outside of the country should be taken into consideration and that the needs of the overseas Filipino workers should be addressed. Manalo adds that educational opportunities and technology should be sought to build the nation's capacities, which will help create jobs in the country. Manalo has also discussed the importance of maintaining friendly ties among other countries. When asked about the issue about President Rodrigo Duterte's permission for China to conduct research on Benham rice,
No, I don't know how accurate it is. I just read about that in the papers. What I am definitely sure, as I just mentioned, is that, first of all, China has reaffirmed that the Philippines has sovereign rights over the Benham rice area. I think their official spokesman said this, and that the president has in fact given instructions for patrols in the Benham rice area.
that's the latest update. Back to you, Darlene.
Thank you, Leslie. And that's Leslie Longbowen reporting live from Quezon City. Meanwhile, the Liberal Party is no longer surprised that the House leadership stripped several congressmen from their committee chairmanships after voting against a death penalty bill. In its official statement, the Liberal Party says they are dismayed that there appears to be suppression of arguments against the bill, stating that of the 22 congressmen who were scheduled to interpolate the bill, only 7 were allowed in the plenary debate. LP adds, voting against measures being pushed by the administration does not mean being enemy and should not be punished or be stripped off committee chairmanships. Nonetheless, LP members vowed to continue pushing for important legislations, to participate in debates, and to vote for measures in accordance with their values and principles.
Next on Y News. Labor groups protest against newly approved department order on contractualization.
And the National Food Authority plans to buy over 4 million sacks of rice from local farmers this year.
Y News will be right back. Solicitor General Jose Calida says the petition filed by Senator Leila De Lima at the Supreme Court should be dismissed because it is falsified. In a manifestation before the court, Solgen Calida pointed out that the verification and certification against forum shopping page appeared to be notarized by a certain attorney Maria Cecil Tresvalles-Cabalo on February 24 in Quezon City. Calida says De Lima could not have personally appeared before the notary because on the same date, she was arrested and detained at the PNP Custodial Center, presented before Muntinlupa RTC, and brought back to her detention cell. Also, the guest logbook of the PNP Custodial Center does not bear the name of Attorney Tresvalles-Cabalo, which suggests that the notary never entered Camp Clame on that day. But De Lima's lawyer, Attorney Alex Padilla, says he is sure the senator saw the notary and it was entered in her registry. He adds that is just desperate, and even assuming the allegation is true, it cannot invalidate the petition. The Philippine National Police Counterintelligence Task Force, or CITF, is to expand its operation against police scalawags. Leila Ilagan will tell us why.
The PNP Counterintelligence Task Force, or CITF, has begun creating a subgroup in Luzon. This is after the police unit filled up 100 vacant positions. Its members would conduct assessment and operations against rogue cops in the National Capital Region. CITF spokesperson Police Chief Inspector Jewel Nicanor says having subgroups in various regions across the country would be a big help in focusing on the complaints against scalawags cops.
Filled up na po yung personnel natin together with the staff personnel. So yung bubuuin pa po natin is yung Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
Currently, CITF forward to the regional directors the complaints they receive against rogue cops assigned in various areas. The police official says the subgroup that would be created will focus on complaints in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CITF in the national headquarters will be composed of 100 members.
Meron po tayong investigators, meron tayong intel officers, intel operatives. We also have the tactical team which is composed of the staff personnel po. Then meron din po tayong mga legal officers po to support every operation to give legal advice.
The formation of the Luzon subgroup is expected to be completed in May. Afterwards will be the formation of the Visayas CITF subgroup. Leila Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The visit of United Nations Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings Agnes Callamard in the Philippines to investigate the alleged case of extrajudicial killings in relation to the anti-drug war of the Duterte administration isn't likely to push through, says the Department of Foreign Affairs. This is because certain conditions given by President Rodrigo Duterte is deemed to be rejected, such as his right to question the UN rapporteur in public, why the international body preferred to investigate the Philippines rather than other countries where killings of hundreds of innocent civilians are rampant.
Well, I think the conditions set by the President are still standing, no? Until and unless she agrees to these conditions, I don't think the visit will push through.
The kin of slain drug suspects in Payatas, Quezon City have allegedly received death threats. Monoxon will tell us why.
Relatives of slain drug suspects in Payatas, Quezon City still mourn the death of their loved ones. Despite their suffering, they allegedly receive death threats, which they believe are related to the complaint they filed against the 4 police officers who conducted an anti-drug operation at their place.
Paano masabi mo ng laban nakapusas? Magsabi sila ng totoo, ayusin nila, hindi sila man matay.
Hindi po ako against sa mga drug on wars na sinasabi nyo. Gusto ko ngang mapatigil yung mga pagsugpuin yung mga droga, pero dapat sa tamang proseso.
Na humihingi na nga sa kanila na huwag silang patayin, kulungin na lang. Bakit niratrat pa nila ng pagpatay?
According to their legal counsel, Attorney Cristina Antonio, a dead body was thrown meters away from their clients' houses.
Mensahe yun sa kanila para huwag silang magsalita at manahimik silang muli. Sa mga may gawa no, na gusto silang takutin, ingat-ingat din sila dahil patong-patong na naman na kaso ang ating isasampa laban sa kanila kung hindi sila magtigil sa pananakot sa ating mga kliyente.
The Court of Appeals issued a permanent protection order for the relatives of slain drug suspects who were killed during the said drug raid. This means the respondents can't go near the victim's kin within a 1-kilometer radius. Earlier, relatives of slain drug suspects filed a formal complaint of frustrated murder, multiple murders, robbery, planting of drugs and firearms, and administrative cases against the 4 Quezon City policemen at the Office of the Ombudsman. The 4 Quezon City Police District Cops conducted Oplan Tokhang last August 21, 2016. The respondents are Senior Inspector Emil Garcia, PO3 Alan Formilieza, PO1 James Agarao, and PO1 Melchor Navisaga, a former QCPD Station 6 cop. Also facing complaints are their informants, namely Lea Barcelona, Mary Joy Ralo, Lori Barcelona, and Richard Andan alias Manok. The lawyer of the relatives of slain drug suspects said that more people who experience abuse from some policemen also plan to file complaints before the Office of the Ombudsman. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Office of the Ombudsman.
Operatives of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA NCR raided the Tagaytay Street in Barangay 131 in Caloocan City today. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Through a search warrant issued by Quezon City RTC Branch 106, authorities from PDEA searched the suspected hideout of notorious drug peddlers in Quezon City this afternoon. The operation targets 3 drug suspects, but operatives were able to capture only 2 of them. They were identified as Alvin Reyes alias Bunso and Santi Adriano. Alex Zapanta alias Alex Doro, the primary target of the operation, was able to escape. But PDEA operatives were able to arrest his brother Alejandro, who is also an alleged drug pusher. PDEA says the suspects are members of Zapata and Adriano drug syndicate known for peddling illegal drugs in the tri-boundary of Manila, Quezon City, and Caloocan.
Manuneutralize natin, madi-dismantle natin itong dalawang drug groups na ito na nag-ooperate dito sa lugar. Pag ikaw kasi nagsusupply sa isang lugar, as far as the barangay is concerned, ikaw yung malaki dito sa lugar na ito.
PDEA operatives say they did surveillance on the suspects and took videos of them taking illegal drugs. The suspect meanwhile denied the allegation.
Tinatanggi mo ba?
Opo.
Bakit?
Hindi naman po kasi totoo. Yan.
Paano mo ako battery?
Natutulog po ako yung kinuha nila ako yun.
Authorities have recovered at the house of the suspects 36 packs of suspected shabu and drug paraphernalia. Aside from the 3 targets, PDEA also arrested more than 30 drug suspects as part of the cemetery allegedly being used as drug den.
Kasi may mga anak ako, may apo ako. Takot po ako sa drugs na dahil kasi nga po, sabi nila ba, mapatay ba? Siyempre ako po, nililigtas ko yung sarili ko sa ganyan drugs. Kaya hindi na ako gumagamit.
The arrested drug suspects are now facing cases for violating the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Caloocan City.
The Senate adopts the joint report on the Committees on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs and Justice and Human Rights on the killing of Albuera Leyte Mayor Rolando Espinosa Sr. in November of last year. None of the senators opposed the adoption of the report, which concludes that PNP-CIDG Region 8's operation that led to the death of Espinosa is premeditated. One of the recommendations in the said report is the strengthening of the PNP Internal Affairs Service unit that investigates rogue cops. Senators also recommend that the Department of Justice should fast-track the resolution of complaints filed against policemen involved in crimes. The Labor Department approved the new policy on contractualization scheme, but some labor groups are dismayed over the new policy. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
After the 9-month dialogue, DOLE Secretary Silvestre Bello III has signed today the Department Order Number 174, Series of 2017, or the DOLE Order on Contracting and Subcontracting. This after a series of dialogues with labor groups and employers across the country on the creation of a new policy on contractualization or ENDO. But The labor groups argue that the new order will only regulate and not prohibit contractualization. Thus, it will not provide solution on labor issues caused by the Endo scheme.
We'll try to seek audience again with the President and tell him, hey, this is not your campaign promise. Hey, this is not your instruction. Why the gall of the present leadership of the Department of Labor contradicting or contravening the instructions made by the President?
The Labor Secretary, on the other hand, clarifies that he has no power to totally prohibit all forms of contractualization and fixed-term employment since only Congress has the authority to do so by amending existing laws.
Under the law, I can regulate contractual and subcontractual arrangement. But I can also prohibit labor-only contracting. Pero yung mga legitimate contracting and subcontracting, I cannot prohibit. That is for Congress to prohibit. Gusto man ng ating Pangulo, the problem is there are existing laws which allow certain forms of contractual arrangement.
Bello says the regulation stated in the order is in accordance to the President's directives when it comes to the employment of Filipino workers.
Yung sinasabi ng ating Pangulo na ayaw niya ng endo, ayaw niya ng contractualization, what he was referring to is yung illegal and unlawful contractual arrangement. So, it's still in line with the President's marching orders.
Among the prohibitions under the new Dole order are the labor-only contracting, contracting out of job or work through an in-house agency, repeated hiring by the contractor or subcontractor of employees under an employment contract of short duration, or the hiring of worker for only a short period of time. Dole's new department order is for immediate implementation in order to strengthen inspection in companies and business establishments in the country to assure that workers' rights and benefits are served properly.
Aabot ng mga close to 630,000 plus na mga manggagawa. Hindi pa kasama dito yung 1.3 million na mga non-regulars na mga manggagawa under the bilateral arrangement. Aabot ng close to 2 million na mga manggagawa in the event na ipatupad, fully execute, implement itong new department order.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Cigarette smoking across the country is expected to stop anytime this week. Aiko Miguel is back to tell us why.
The Department of Health, or DOH, is now ready for the implementation of the nationwide smoking ban as soon as President Rodrigo Duterte signs the executive order anytime this week. Health Secretary Pauline Ubial says they have already created implementing rules and regulations for the said ban. That's why it can be implemented at once.
We're positive that it will come out anytime soon, within the week. After 15 days of publication of the IRR, it will be implemented.
According to the Department of Health, the ordinance also serves as a protection to non-smokers' health in the Philippines and to let the smokers understand the message of the EO's importance that they are also victims because of the different illnesses they could get with continuous smoking. It can be recalled that the President ordered that the said EO should be in accordance with the ordinance of Davao City mandating a smoke-free environment in public places. Furthermore, Secretary Ubial says the President's legal team has created several provisions to ensure that the EO is in accordance with the Republic Act 9211 or the Tobacco Regulations Act.
The executive order has been given to the President on March 7. We had a cabinet meeting on March 6. I tried to follow up last Monday and it's still with the Office of the President and undergoing final revisions.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Health.
The National Food Authority, or NFA, is open to the possibility of buying rice grains from local farmers. The NFA is set to purchase more than 4.6 million sacks of rice, or equivalent to more than 230 tons or million tons this year, to avoid shortage in its buffer stock. Based on the agency's monitoring, there are areas in southern Luzon and Visayas where prices of rice are lower than the NFA price of 17 pesos per kilo. The NFA vows to provide incentives to cooperatives and farmer organizations that would sell rice to the agency. Meanwhile, a farmer without requirements like passbook can directly go to the NFA office to sell sacks of rice. Currently, NFA has already bought more than 94,000 sacks of rice. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA stresses that the relocation of the coastal bus terminal to Pasay City will provide convenience to both the agency and to the riding public. Joe Anano will tell us why.
MMDA General Manager Tomas Orbos explains the benefit to commuters once the Southwest Integrated Provincial Transport Terminal is relocated from its current location on Coastal Road, Baclaran to the HK Sun Plaza in Pasay City.
Number one, lalapit yung commuters natin doon sa Manila and to EDSA and to Bendia. Number two, makakatipid ng MMDA ng more than 1.5 million dahil lupa po namin ito.
For their part, bus operators and drivers support MMDA's move, saying the new terminal location is better and more accessible.
Yung dating site, yung Coastal Mall, kung ating tawagin, ay hindi naman po talaga very viable and very passenger friendly yung structure na yon. At kung matitingnan ninyo, pag bumaba po ang mga tiga-probinsya na aming daladalang pasahero ay nahihirapan po para sa kanilang connecting na sasakyan, yung papunta pong city.
At tumalo ang pasahero dito, nakakaawa po yung mga namumuhunan. Katulad yan, pumipila ho mga 1 oras bago mapuno. Pero yung paglipat po namin doon, pabor ho sa amin yan.
By doing so, the government will be able to save fund because the agency will soon be free of rental fee with the new location of the bus terminal. However, some passengers are not in favor of new terminal location, saying it would only be more difficult for their daily commute.
Malayo po eh. Kaya mas okay na po dito.
Ito parang mas malapit ito sa amin kasi dito lang po kami sabay namin pagbaba po namin ng jeep. Tatawid na lang po kami ng overpass. Terminal na po. Mas malapit to. Mas kung lalayo pa, mas mahirap po.
Still, MMDA will begin the transfer of the bus terminal on April 4, 2017. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Coming up, tourists are likely to enjoy the relaxing view of cherry blossoms in the U.S. capital as they may bloom early this year.
And a second hotel with robot staff welcomes visitors in Japan.
More from Y News after this break. Tourists likely to enjoy the relaxing view of cherry blossoms in the U.S. capital as they may bloom early this year. James Bontuyan will tell us why.
The picturesque cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. may bloom earlier this year due to unprecedented local weather conditions, which may disappoint prospective visitors to this annual affair. Each year, organizers put together a festival in March to mark the expected peak of the blossoms. The tourism boom from the event provides a major source of revenue for the U.S. capital. However, due to unreasonably warmer temperatures in February, the date this year was moved up to this week. Many would-be spectators arranged to come by car, train, and plane, but got snowed out.
We have never had a year where we have been so far along in the bloom process when all of a sudden we've had a significant snowfall and of greater concern, some really bitter cold temperatures.
The city's annual Cherry Blossoms Festival coincides with the start of spring. The vendors were all ready to make hamburgers, but there's nobody to serve them to.
You don't get to see it anywhere else in the States, I think, but now, I mean, all we have out here is, we can look at tree branches and that's probably it.
Pretty disappointed because of the weather. Yeah, we can see it, they're all falling down now.
It's still unclear if Washington's famous buds will fully blossom or bust.
You can see there's brown on the white petals. That's from the cold temperatures we had over the weekend, and that's indication that the blossoms have been damaged and ultimately are probably going to die earlier than they would.
James Bontillion, UNTV News and Rescue, Washington, D.C.
In the cancer ward at Damascus Children's Hospital, doctors are struggling with a critical shortage of specialist drugs to treat their young patients. Bert Cerudo will tell us why.
6 years of conflict have brought the Syrian health service, one of the best in the Middle East, close to collapse. Fewer than half of the country's hospitals are fully functioning and numbers of doctors have died. On top of this, cuts in health spending by the government that is fighting a hugely expensive war, a drastic fall in the Syrian currency, and indirect effects of the sanctions are all deepening the misery of patients who need foreign-made drugs. One private charity, Basma, is trying to help out by funding cancer drugs for poor families. The proportion of patients who need assistance has risen from about 30% to nearly 80% since the war began. Executive Manager Rima Salim said. At the Children's Hospital in government-held Damascus, the waiting room outside the cancer ward was crowded with relatives, many of whom had brought clothes, mattresses, and blankets in case they had to spend long time far from their homes outside the city.
طبعا بسبب الضغط الكبير على مشفى الأطفال أحيانا الطفل ممكن ينتظر دوره ليجي دوره بين ال 15 وال 20 يوم أحيانا، وهذا طبعا بيأثر على إنذار المرض تبعه لأنه لازم ياخذ المعالجة كل شهرين أو كل 3 شهور حسب البروتوكول. كل ما تأخر بالمعالجة ممكن تأذي للطفل، ونسبة استجابته للمعالجة السرطانية بتكون أقل من غيره من الأطفال.
Local and World Health Organization officials explain that Western sanctions for severely restricting pharmaceutical imports are to blame, even though medical supplies are largely exempt from measures imposed by the United States and European Union. Bert Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue, Middle East.
Women mayors gather in Paris in relation to the climate change agreement. June Garin will tell us why.
Women leaders from around the world convened in New York City on Wednesday to take action against climate change. The Women for Climate initiative was headed by Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo, with conference members talking about the role of women in their fight to combat air pollution and climate change. In October 2016, Hidalgo was elected chair of the C40 Cities Group, which focuses on driving urban action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
So I think that the initiative by Mayor Hidalgo to bring women together for climate change is just at the right time. To again draw the focus to the victims and the people who are most vulnerable because of climate change, they are women. Besides that, women are more than 50% of the world's population.
Leaders called on U.S. President Donald Trump to do more to help reach the goals agreed at the World Climate Change Conference 2015, known as COP21. The Paris Agreement, reached by nearly 200 nations over a year ago, will help guide a radical shift of the world economy away from the fossil fuels in order to limit heat waves, floods, droughts, and rising sea levels. June Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
The Department of Education, or DepEd, wants this year's Palarong Pambansa to be the best in history. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Ito po ang isa kung hindi po sa pinakamagandang inaasahan po nating Palarong Pambansa sa kasaysayan ng kagawaran ng edukasyon.
The 60th year of the Palarong Pambansa will be unprecedented. This after Education Secretary Leonor Briones and Antique Governor Rodora Cadiao signed the Memorandum of Agreement for the Palarong Pambansa this year that will be held in San Jose, Antique from April 23 to 29. During a press briefing earlier, DepEd cited the changes in the game.
Since 1948, ngayon lamang po tayo magbibigay ng parangal sa isang produkto ng palaro. Isa pa pong bago ay yung demo sports po natin, aero gymnastics at yung dance sports. Yung dating demo sports, magiging regular sports. Yung wushu, wrestling, futsal, and billiards. Magiging bahagi na po ito ng medal tally para malaman kung sino po ang magiging overall champion.
Governor Cadiao, meanwhile, is thankful that Antique has been chosen as the venue for the said games.
And Palarong Pambansa broke their tradition by giving it to a practically small and unknown province such as Antique.
The Palarong Pambansa aims to promote physical education and sports as part of basic education and develop discipline, teamwork, and sportsmanship of students. 10,000 to 12,000 student athletes are expected to participate in the games this year. Meanwhile, DepEd assures of taking the necessary steps to ensure the safety of the participants.
Kinausap po natin hindi lamang po yung provincial leadership po ng PNP at ng AFP, kung hindi po yung buong Region 6, ma'am. Mayroon pong sasama halimbawa sa bawat bus na kung saan nandoon yung ating mga manlalaro mula po sa anumang port iyon patungong lalawigan ng Antique.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Department of Education.
Leicester City enters the Champions League quarterfinals. Meanwhile, the chairman of the International Cricket Council resigns. Aaron Romero will tell us why.
In cricket, India's Shashank Manohar steps down as chairman of the International Cricket Council due to personal reasons. Manohar was elected on a 2-year term as the ICC's first independent chairman last year with no oppositions. The ICC board says it will assess the situation and the next steps to take before making a further announcement. Meanwhile, in soccer, Leicester City makes a momentous 2-0 win over Sevilla, paving a way toward the Champions League quarterfinals.
It was very, very important to get onto the winning streak, because when you lose, players will lose confidence, and we needed to get back to winning ways as soon as possible.
Leicester has now won all 3 matches since Claudio Ranieri left. Aaron Romero, UNTV News and Rescue, New York.
Robot geeks will surely enjoy checking in this Japanese hotel. Danny Tixon will tell us why.
Welcome to Handan Hotel. Please use the touch panel to select your language.
Dinosaur receptionists were on standby as a second hotel staff, mostly by robots and automatons, opened in Tokyo on Wednesday. Media were invited ahead of customers to check out the 9 types of robots that help check guests in, clean the lobby, and entertain guests. Human staff are available and help maintain the 140 automatons on site. The first Henna Hotel, which literally means Strange Hotel, opened in Nagasaki, southern Japan in 2015 and was recognized as the first robot-staffed hotel in the world by Guinness World Records. This second hotel, operated by low-cost travel agent HIS, has opened very close to Tokyo Disney Resort, a top Japanese tourist destination.
変なホテルの変は、英語でストレンジではなくて変わり続ける、変化し続ける、進化するホテルという意味合いを込めております。
The hotel's main evolving attraction, he added, is the iRobots in every room.
お部屋に各部屋にありますタピアという、AI を搭載しているロボットですね。これは、当ホテルの一番の売りになります。はい、すごいところが、人の動きですとかカメラを認識して、それで自動で、考えて判断して、提案をする、そういったのが今後できていくので、タピアは今後、より進化していければ私たちの生活がすごく変わってくるロボットの、一役を担うと思っています。
When the hotel first opened in 2015, 30 humans were still needed to check the grounds and maintain the robots. That has been now cut down to only 7 in each hotels now. Hideo Sawada, CEO of low-cost travel agent HIS, insists he will take this business model global. Room rates begin at 14,000 yen or $122 for 2 people per night. The third Henna Hotel is scheduled to open this summer in central Japan. Danny Tixon, UNTV News and Rescue, Tokyo, Japan.
Art light installations at the iLight Festival in Marina Bay, Singapore brings a promising festival this year. Winnie Balyon will tell us why.
Now on its 5th edition, the annual Art Light Festival iLight Marina Bay is officially running the event until March 26 with a theme focused in bringing the people back to nature through engaging works of art created by artists from 9 countries including Singapore.
We have partnered with 3 overseas light festival as well, and this is the Amsterdam Light Festival. We have the Bella Skyway Festival in Poland, as well as the Canal Convergence Festival in Arizona, US.
Led by Urban Redevelopment Authority of Singapore, the festival showcases 3 theme hubs to best promote the stand of Marina Bay as a sustainable zone.
EcoMe event, we will have booths, or we have booths that is promoting products and services related to sustainability as well as conservation. The second thematic hub is right across there at the float at Marina Bay. This is a imaginative playground where we feature 11 giant inflatables. So it's a bit like a bouncing castle. The third hub is at the Bayfront event space. This is Gastro Beats, an experience of dining, good food, music, as well as another carnival.
According to Chen, this event has become an annual tourist attraction in Singapore that brings people down to the bayside from different places to appreciate nature as well as arts while contributing to meaningful causes.
This has more of a wow feeling, do you know what I mean? And with us in the canals, it's smaller, it's also more, you can sail by with a boat. It is quite different, but this is very nice, very nice. Of course, the setting is beautiful.
To further encourage everyone for a sustainable Singapore movement, iLight Marina Bay will switch off its art light installations together with the rest of Singapore to join the 1-hour Lights Out event of Earth Hour on March 25. Queenie Balyon, UNTV News and Rescue, Singapore.
Those are the reasons behind the news. March 16, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Darlene, Basingan.
Because we need to know. We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.